Congratulations, you have decided to serve in the United States military, and if you have not already, you are probably contemplating on taking the ASVAB test, and you are here to learn more about it. Say less, fam, I got you. Here in this video, we're going to be discussing with you what exactly is the ASVAB test based on, how does it work, and what are some things to factor in or to consider after you have taken the ASVAB test. So let's get to the bottom of this, and it starts right now. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Team Swartz, and if this is your first time here, welcome to Team Swartz. Here on this channel, I provide a ton of Army basic training tips, recruiting, and other Army-related videos. With that being said, consider subscribing to this channel and hitting that bell icon so you don't miss anything. Hi, I'm Sergeant First Class Swartz, your local New York Army National Guard recruiter, conveniently located in Midtown Manhattan, and I am never, ever too busy to transition you from a civilian into a soldier. So with that being said, the ASVAB test, probably the #1 thing that prevents an applicant being able to sign up. So with that being said, hashtag boss in the comment sections down below if you've taken the ASVAB test and you are looking for additional resources to pass the ASVAB test, because later on in this video, you might want to stick around because I'm going to be sharing with you some of the top 2, maybe 4 different websites that you could utilize to help study, to help pass the test, or to do better on the AFQT portion of the test. So I'll get into more of that in a second, but I mean, like, what exactly is the ASVAB test based on? Glad you brought that up, because the ASVAB is an acronym, meaning that it's the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test. And what that means is it's an aptitude test. So based on what you know now, through learning in a classroom environment or through real-world experiences, which MOSs or military occupation specialties, or AKA job skills, we can specifically offer you. So the higher or better you do on this test, rather, the more opportunities and MOSs that we can offer you. So with that being said, so the ASVAB test is broken down into 9 different sections, okay? You have the arithmetic, the math, the paragraph comprehension, the word knowledge, general science, shop, electronics, and mechanics. Oh, and don't forget, our favorite, the assembly of objects or shapes. So with that being said, the test is actually broken down into 2 different parts as you as the applicant and us as recruiters that we are concerned with. So the ASVAB test is broken down on the AFQT, which is the minimum qualifying score to be able to sign your enlistment contract, okay? So 31% or better, for all intents and purposes, for the test in of itself is 31%. The maximum one can score on the ASVAB test is 99%. It's not out of 100. And if you walk out of there with a 55, don't fret, my friend. It is not rated like your traditional high school or college level exam, where 65 to 70% is the minimum passing grade for a regular institution. For this test and this test only, 31% or better is passing. And all that score means is that you can sign your contract. That's it. Okay? Unless you're trying to get additional incentives, which we'll talk about later on in this video, all you need is a 31% or better to be in a position to be authorized to sign a contract, providing that you qualify for jobs, which is the other part of the test. So the other part of the test that we factor into deciding which, or not deciding, but to determine which MOSs we can offer you is your line scores. And to create line scores, each branch of service has its own way of doing it, but I'm here to talk about the Army. So we have 10 line scores. So they take those 9 sections, they take multiple sections, and they average them out 10 different ways, and those are called line scores. And line scores is what's determining which MOSs. So I mean, like, there's over 120 different MOSs that you could qualify for based on your test results alone. The minimum qualifying line score is about 85 to help start qualifying for MOSs, and I've seen as high as 159 points on any given line score. So the higher those scores are, the more MOSs and opportunities will be afforded to you going through your enlistment process. Now, some military branches, like the Navy and the Air Force, will require a higher score, but for the test in of itself, like I said, a 31% or better is passing. The Navy and the Air Force will fluctuate between 36 to about 40 points based on the needs at that time for that branch of service. But the Army is always a minimum of 31%. So if you are trying to get a specific incentive as part of your contract, if you're otherwise eligible for it, the minimum qualifying ASVAB score is a 50% or better. So some of those incentives that we may offer you is a cash enlistment bonus, the Montgomery GI Bill kicker, the student loan repayment program, and specific and native to the National Guard and the National Guard only, our College First program. Okay, as of November 1st of 2019, there is about 21 to 22 states that have opted in for the College First program, which stabilizes you for 2 years, meaning that you will not be obligated to go on to a deployment. So once you complete AIT, you're non-deployable for a minimum of 2 years out of your minimum 6-year contract. More to follow in a later video. And that's, like I said, specifically only the Army National Guard. Now, for those incentives, there are other stipulations that will be unique to that specific incentive. So always consult your local recruiter to figure out if you are otherwise eligible for those programs and those little nuances for each one. So definitely check it out. So the AFQT, I mean, like how does that affect your 31% or better? So that's part of your AFQT. So if you score 30 and below, there's nothing we could do for you. I mean, every once in a while, we have limited opportunities if you're otherwise qualified to enlist as a test category 4, referred to as Cat 4 option. So with that being said, 31% or better is what you're looking for. And what affects that percentage is the 2 math and 2 English sections. Math, arithmetic, word knowledge, and paragraph comprehension. While studying for the ASVAB, unless you're memorizing every word in the dictionary, you are not gonna, there's nothing you could do really effectively to be able to improve that area of the ASVAB test, okay? So any book, any website that you go to, they will teach you about prefixes and suffixes. And once you take the ASVAB test, you're going to realize that there are 99.9% of the words on this test do not have any prefixes and suffixes. So when in doubt and you can't make an educated guess, choose option 3, okay? That is the commonly most used answer on the test, just like in high school when C is what we were told to choose while taking a multiple choice test. Paragraph comprehension, in my opinion, is strategy, okay? You're going to see that little countdown clock counting down to what limited time that you have to answer all these crazy amount of questions. So you're going to feel a lot of pressure, okay? So what you need to do is you're going to read the question first, then read the paragraph. Once you find the answer, stop reading. You are wasting time. Take that answer, look down at your multiple choice answers that you have down below, 1 through 4, and make sure you read the entire answer before making that your final selection, because they try to trick you up, right? You'll start to read the answer, oh yeah, this sounds like it, this number 2, not realizing that the second half of that answer that you haven't fully read yet is incorrect or wrong. So make sure you read the entire answer before making your final selection. Now, the math and the arithmetic, however, you can improve that overnight because this is 10th grade level stuff. If you are a college student and you've taken advanced math like trigonometry, chemistry, stuff like that, calculus, that's advanced math. This is 10th grade level simple math, and it's something that you can, in fact, if you put a little bit of effort and you study it, it's like riding a bicycle. Once you get back on it, you're riding into the wind. So practice studying the math and the arithmetic. So those are the 2 sections that I feel that you should be doubling down on. Reading about the, the skill sets like the mechanic, the electronic, and the shop, that's great, that's good, but forget about that, all right? It's really not that difficult of a test. Like for an example, they'll be like a screwdriver, the one with the X, right? They're gonna say, is this a hammer? Is this a Phillips screwdriver? Is this a chisel or a screwdriver? So you know it's a screwdriver or a Phillips screwdriver because it's definitely not a hammer or a chisel, right? So you got a 50-50 chance, right? So the one with the X is a Phillips screwdriver. So because of me, you're going to get that answer right. And I guarantee you almost 100% of the time, that question's on the test. So also keep in mind that when you take the ASVAB test, that AFQT score is only used for initial enlistment purposes only. So later on in your military career, if you decide that you want to qualify for new or better MOSs and you are interested in retaking the ASVAB test, you can. and you don't have to worry about that AFQT score. So you could retake the ASVAB, walk out literally with a 2%, and it won't matter, providing that you have the line score in which you are searching for that opportunity or MOS that you're looking to reclass into. So hopefully that makes sense. There are over 120 different MOSs in which you can choose based on your test results alone that you could possibly qualify for on the test results. So with that being said, just because you qualify for, let's say, 120 different MOSs, there are certain things that will also factor in that will weed out those opportunities for you based on that criteria. So some of those things that could hinder you from getting specific MOSs is, for example, your moral history. The more colorful, the more intense your moral history is may prohibit you from joining or taking certain, joining in general, yeah, that too, but it may also hinder you from selecting certain MOSs. So if you have a criminal background of like marijuana possession or assault or domestic violence or whatever the case may be, your moral history may affect you in joining in specific MOSs that require a secret clearance or higher, and those specific MOSs don't allow certain criminal history. So if you have, I mean, that's a pretty broad and very unique to an individual scenario. So consult your recruiter, bringing your dispositions and, if needed, your arrest reports and possibly the court minutes, what's being said in the courtroom between the judge and your lawyer or whatever. If you're not there, whatever's being said between the judge and the curator or whatever, that's all being put into the minutes. So just keep that in mind. Your moral history may affect the MOSs or opportunities within the Army National Guard or the military in general. Your financial history may impact or affect your ability to get a clearance or higher. So if you have negative debt and you haven't paid it, or it's a large sum or something along those lines, that would also help prohibit or prevent you from getting certain opportunities while joining the military. Citizenship, are you a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, either born here or naturalized? So the majority of our MOSs require citizenship, and if you don't, that's fine. Come in with a green card. That's perfectly awesome, okay? Within a year, you'll get your citizenship from the date you graduate from Army basic training, if that's what you choose to do. And then once you get your citizenship, at minimum, worst case scenario, at the end of your current contract, you can reclass into a new MOS that you are now eligible for based on your citizenship. Driver's licenses also may impact very few, like military, police, and transportation and fueler, stuff like that. They require driver's licenses, but for the most part, having or not having a driver's license isn't going to impact the majority of the MOSs or opportunities within the Army National Guard or the Army in it of itself. There are medical waivers and administrative waivers for those who are prior service, but if you have a medical issue, that may also preclude you from specific MOSs as well, because you might not be as physically inclined to be able to perform at an effective rate as a normal soldier with normal physical capabilities. So just also keep that in mind. So when we submit a medical waiver, it's for a specific MOS that authorizes that medical profile, whatever that issue you have medically or have had medically in the past. So if you're going into the National Guard or the Army Reserve, your geographical area may also impact the opportunities available to you as well. So for example, if there's only one unit within a 3-hour radius of your home of record, and there is only a field artillery company in that area, guess what? The only MOSs that will be afforded to you are whatever's in that unique unit. So geographical area will also impact that opportunity. Here in New York City, we're good, man. We're Gucci. We got all kinds of different units in this area. Now, for active duty, however, it's based on the needs of the Army at that time when you're going active duty. So, for example, they may only be looking for 3 MOSs, like A, B, and C. And if you're looking for MOSL, but they're only offering A, B, and C, that guidance counselor will be like, listen, unless you're coming in for A, B, or C, there's nothing I could do for you. And you might have to play hardball and be like, all right, I'm good, man. I'll just go sit outside. Whenever you get L for me, then we're good to go. All right? And you might have to make more than one visit to MEPS to ultimately get what you want if you're playing hard to get, providing that you are otherwise qualified for that particular MOS. So that's pretty much my insight on that. But whether you go in active duty, Army Reserve, or Army National Guard, whichever MOS we put into your contract at time of enlistment, you are guaranteed that MOS at time of contract. Other branches of services like the Air Force, the Navy, and the Marine Corps, they can't do that for you. The majority of them have open contracts unless they're going to the reserve component. But for active duty, yes, you will not have MOS of choice at time of enlistment. They will figure that out later down the road. So if you're going Army National Guard or Reserve, you are guaranteed, same thing with active duty, at time of enlistment, your MOS of choice, that you, whatever it is that you're signing up for. Now, if you fail AIT or do something stupid throughout your training scenario and you are forced to either be discharged, worst case scenario, or to reclass to a new MOS, that's on you. That's not on us. You signed a contract for ABC. Guess what? We expect ABC. And if you can't deliver ABC, then we're going to give you option D. Okay? So unique here to the New York Army National Guard. I can't account this for all National Guard states. However, in our area, in the New York Army National Guard, in your DD form, 1966 form, when on date of enlistment, if for whatever reason you academically fail at AIT for your MOS in which you signed up for, they will look at the 1966 because we annotated 2 additional MOSs that you were interested in signing for, or at least settling for contract purposes only. So that way, if you fail that MOS, you are going to fall back onto one of the other 2 opportunities that you were willing to sign a contract for as a backup. In the active duty and Army Reserve, I don't know if they do that or not, but you may be forced to reclass into an MOS that is academically less challenging to you at the needs of that branch of service at that time. So just keep that in the back of your mind while you're in training. So just make sure that you do what you're supposed to and pass everything and get that first time go. So with that being said, based on what you are eligible for, what is vacant, and that you are otherwise qualified for, you're going to get what you want, providing that you don't fail. Also, we can give you 5 additional points on every single line score. Now, not all MOSs authorize this, but the recruiter will know which ones are or aren't. But we have the ability as a recruiter to add 5 additional points. It's called a telephonic line score waiver. So basically, at the day of enlistment, the guidance counselor will contact the schoolhouse and be like, listen, we got Johnny Snotnose trying to enlist as a 12 Bravo combat engineer, but he's short 2 points. Will you please authorize an override and allow us to put him in boots as a 12 Bravo with those 2 additional points? And they'll be like, good to go, and you sign your contract as a 12 Bravo combat engineer. But what if you don't qualify for a particular MOS at time of enlistment? That's fine. Later on in your military career, at the end of your contract, you can renegotiate your MOS and or your unit that you're assigned to in the Army National Guard, Reserve, and or even active duty. Now, if you're active duty, it's based on the needs of the Army at that time, so they may or may not appease your request, but you can always request it and see what happens from there. Same thing with the Army National Guard. We want to keep you. We want to retain you, okay? It's part of our retention mission, okay? So you are going to have an opportunity to change your MOS and or your unit later on. And to be quite honest with you, the more MOSs you have under your belt in the first 10 years of your military career will give you more avenues for advancement in rank later on when you are submitting your promotion packet to the next rank. So Sergeant Swartz, how often can I take this test? I'm glad you asked. So you can take the test 4 times within a 2-year time period. So the first 3 tests you can take with a minimum of a 30-day waiting period in between tests. After you fail the 3rd test, which I hope it doesn't make it that far, but if you do, then you gotta wait 6 more months before you can take the 4th test. If you fail the 4th test, you gotta wait 1 full year before you can retest. Scary stuff, man. Don't be that guy or gal. So if you've passed the ASVAB test, but you feel like in your head that, oh, I didn't score high enough, I got a 45. Listen, my friend, you passed the test, don't worry about it. MEPCOM policy technically tells you that if you've passed the test and you qualify for line scores and you don't have a genuine, legitimate reason to retest, you are not authorized to be retested. Now, if you've passed the test, but you don't have line scores to qualify for a job, which has happened before, I actually had somebody score a 54 on the ASVAB test and not have 1 single line score, you are authorized to retest. If you fail the test, obviously you can't join. You know, sometimes there's a Cat 4 option, which I'll explain in a later video, but that only comes once in a blue moon, and that's like winning the lottery. However, I've seen plenty of people fail the ASVAB test and qualify for a crap load of MOSs. So you have to do good enough on the test, on the English and the math, to be able to pass it so that you can sign a contract, but you also have to have some of these skill sets to get line scores to qualify for MOSs. Now, many of you, or not many of you, but some of you from time to time will be like, Sarge, I want to retake the test. I want to get higher in the test so I can qualify for more jobs. I get it. I've been recruiting for over 15 years, and if you scored between a 31 and a 50, as a recruiter, I'm going to strongly discourage you from retaking the ASVAB test because your latest, most recent test is for record. And if you had, by the grace of God, scored higher previously, that score is no longer valid. Again, MEPS, if they're paying attention, or the testing site, if they're paying attention, if you've tested and passed before, they have the ability to prevent you from retesting. But if they're not paying attention and we slip you through the cracks and you are able to retest, again, if those scores drop, whether it's your line scores and or your AFQT score, you are shits up creek, okay? It is not good. Do not, I say again, do not retake the ASVAB test if you score less than a 50. Okay, because, for example, story time. I had 2 applicants that I can think of off the top of my head that, So, one, he was my 3rd enlistment as a recruiter about 15 years ago. Not gonna say his name, but his deal breaker is that he had to join as a 42 alpha, which he qualified for with a 49% on the AFQT. So he was good to go, but he was hell-bent on getting the $20,000 bonus that we were offering at that time. And like I said earlier in this video, one of the minimum requirements is scoring a 50 on the test. So he was hell-bent on increasing it by 1 point. I strongly discouraged him, like I mentioned, and I, as a recruiter, always want to do right by my applicant. I appeased him, all right, with, sharing with him the warnings of, retesting and failing, but he didn't want to hear it. So he took the test a second time and he failed it with a 26%. Mind you, he ended up having to take a test a 3rd time, but passed it, but this time with a 36th percentile. So even though he scored for a 42 alpha the first time, which is the MOS that he was trying to go for, he no longer qualified for 42 alpha and he had less line scores. Do you know how frustrated I was? Dude, you wanted a 42 alpha, you could have gotten it, but you were greedy because you wanted to get that $20,000 bonus. I mean, money's not that important. I mean, it's right up there next to oxygen, but it ain't that important. Why? Sometimes it's really, really frustrating as a recruiter. But the lesson here is, if you qualify for a job that you want, don't worry about money, because as fast as money comes, as fast as money goes, and you're stuck doing a job that you don't necessarily want if you're going for a different job. But in his case, that's what he wanted. So he ended up ultimately signing up as a 36 Bravo, a financial management technician. Second story, this was even crazier. This girl scored a 49% on the test with me, was ready to rock and roll, got into an argument with her significant other at that time, and she decided she wanted to go active duty. Cool, bet. I got you. I support you 200% because that's the type of recruiter I am. She ended up taking the test again with an active duty Army recruiter because they have precision recruiting. So I guess that particular month they were looking for somebody who scored over a 50 on the ASVAB, who's a minority with a 2-year degree. And their enlistments don't count unless they find somebody that meets that criteria. So you know what? They told her she would have to retake the ASVAB. And I'm like, when I found this out, I'm like, why would you retest? You had a 49. You passed. You were good to go. What? They push her to retake the test, and guess what? She failed the test with like a 21 or something like that. Then she retested again with me and failed it a 3rd time. We had to wait 6 more months to take her final 4th exam. After that, she would have to wait a whole year. By the grace of God, she took some tutoring, she buckled down and studied her butt off, and she passed the test by the skin of her teeth. Right here, this thing right here. By the skin of her teeth with a 31 percentile. And she had to settle for something a little less exciting because her line scores also took a dip. But she's in there like swimwear and she's serving in the Army National Guard. Hallelujah. Freaking-lujah. So, with that being said, I'm warning you, do not retake the test if you've already passed the test and you qualify for jobs, okay? Just don't do it. It is really frustrating on both the applicant and the recruiter. So now I promised you some resources to help you study for the ASVAB test. So here I'm going to share with you some websites, some books and stuff. And, what I want to express to you with this ASVAB test is many of you are going to go and take a bunch of practice tests and not learn anything. The definition of insanity is to do the same exact thing and expect a different result. So why would you go and keep taking a test with the same knowledge that you already have? Like, you're not doing anything to improve your knowledge, but you're expecting a higher score for some odd reason. I just don't get it. Like, the mentality there, I just don't get it. Okay, I need you in a learning mode. Okay, so you need to study. You really do. No more than an hour or two a day. Get some good lighting, quiet area. Turn off your freaking cell phone. Turn off the radio, the TV. Zero distractions. Whether you're a morning person or a night person or afternoon person. Whichever part of the day that you are most mentally alert and ready to kill the day, okay? That's when I want you to study, when you're at your best, okay? Some of the websites that I highly suggest to help you study. Top one, number one, hands down, www.asvabtutor.com. This is a practice test. But Sarge, you said not to take practice tests. I got you. This particular practice test will break down whatever you get wrong. It will break it down to you Barney style from, step by step, leading and showing you how to get to the correct answer. So that's the practice test I would love for you to do. Now, the other website is kind of like a video website, kind of like YouTube, but it's all about education. Whatever you want to learn on education, they have a video for you. So if you are struggling with decimals, you can type in decimals, and they will show you videos tutoring you, showing you everything and anything about decimals. That website is www.khanacademy.org. You will create a free profile and you will watch those videos and learn on the subjects that you are struggling with. So take the practice test to find out what you're struggling with and write down the types of things that you're struggling with, like least common denominators, fractions, decimals, equations, whatever, like PEMDAS, things of that nature. Study that stuff. I need you to study, and study. If you're more of a book person, there are 4 different books out there that I recommend. My top choice is ASVAB for Dummies, okay? You can spend anywhere from $15 to $25, maybe $30, depending if the price went up, but no more than $30 for a book. You can even find it at your local library probably, and sometimes they'll even have a CD-ROM or a CD at the back that you can plug into your computer, if you even still have that these days, to be able to take practice tests there. Or you could download their app. I think it's like $10. Okay, and they'll have practice tests there. And again, they will break it down to you and show you how to get to the correct answer. You can also take the ASVAB for Idiots book and study from there. They too have a CD that you can purchase along with the book. And then you have the Barron's and the Kaplan edition that you could also study from. And like I said, study, but no more than 2 hours a day. Study for 2 to 4 weeks, depending how bad you did on the test. If you take the practice test and you score over a 20, that's like the sweet spot. So as long as you scored over a 20 on the practice test, you have the ability to be able to score over a 31%. 98% of the time, if you score less than a 20, so 19 and below on the practice test or on the real test, for the most part, it's very, very difficult and very few in between for those applicants to actually eventually pass the test without massive amounts of effort to study to pass the test. So again, like I said, focus on learning in those 2 to 4 weeks while you're studying, okay? You need to put in the effort to study to be able to realistically go and take the test. There's nothing more frustrating than rescheduling you to take the test and we get all the way there and be like, yo man, so how'd you study? Or, how did studying go? Oh, it went. Oh, okay, good. What did you do to study? I just took some tests. Oh, okay. Well, did you study? Well, yeah. Like, how much did you study? It's always something very minuscule, something very small and not worthwhile. And then they walk out like, oh, I don't understand why I failed. Dude, you didn't study. So study, okay? If you pass the EAST, which is the EST, the practice test version, at the recruiting office, and if you score a 31 or better, I still suggest that you take a few days to study before taking the test, but usually most people will score about 10 points higher on the real test if they're actually applying themselves in brushing up on the formulas, the steps, PEMDAS, stuff like that prior to the test. So just brush up on your math and I swear you'll do better. So if you've already taken the test or if you're in the process of studying the ASVAB test and you have a different website that's working for you or know that has worked for somebody else, do me a favor, share the wealth with everyone else here on this channel. Post it down below. Post it down below. What websites are you using to study for the ASVAB test? Let's help everyone get into the military. Post down below those links. Thank you so much for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. That's it. Video's over. Sorry, but you could definitely watch more. You can check out this video here, or maybe you can check out this video here. But you know what? Actually, this video is pretty good. You should definitely watch this one. But actually, this one seems pretty great. You should definitely check out this video. But actually, why don't you watch them both? Try clicking them both